Hey there, it is Uncle Sasha, and in today's video I want to just briefly discuss how the job market is changing, and with the AI what kind of future a software development profession may have. I believe we have some more insights into what kind of future we may see, and I think it is important both for the people who are just coming into the profession and more established senior older engineers, because the change is coming and it's not necessarily the change that everyone would like. What the change is, right? And I believe that we can definitely see that AI is getting more and more traction, and there are more and more effort put into agentic AI, generative AI things, generating all sorts of things which were previously done by people. It could be documentation, it could be software code, it could be design. So there is a very huge push towards using the AI rather than human labor for generating or creating something. And you could argue that it's not working super well, and it is indeed not working great. So we see lots of vulnerabilities in AI-generated code. AI-generated design is somewhat generic, and AI-generated documentation is often misses the mark. So there are definitely things where the human can take the edge, but I believe there is no desire to completely replace people yet, and there is more desire to not hire more people, and employees is usually the biggest cost center in the organization. So as an entrepreneur myself, I'm working only by myself, there is only me. And why so? Well, because I can't afford having an employees. My cash flow is mostly negative, so I can't afford that. And businesses, they use the same logic. They don't really want to afford employees, but the difference here is that I can't afford employees. It's not that I don't want to, but they can afford employees, but they don't want to. They would rather to put their money into their bank accounts, their shareholder value, rather than paying Jane Doe, let's say, for the same service. So they are way more happy to spending $60,000 a year on AI implementation than getting the same or potentially even bigger value from hiring someone. The companies are definitely pushing into this direction, and they are quite forceful and determined. And I believe the originally hope was to get the AGI in some form, which would be basically an artificial intelligence replacing the need for human labor in the first place. We see some evidence that AGI is not coming, but it doesn't mean that the existent generative AI can't be used, and it definitely is going to be used. So, taking all this fluff aside, as a software engineer, how I think your role will change in 5 years from now, and what I think you should and could do to make sure you are positioned the best on the market and you are not vulnerable to the market shifts and ups and downs. I believe in 5 years from now, what we're gonna see is not the complete replacement of the programmers, as similarly there is no complete replacement for assembly programmers or C language programmers, but definitely less demand for those. There will be programmers who are doing the old school programming, of course, but the mainstream is probably going to move towards agentic copilot-ish generation, where the engineer would be responsible into translating requirements or desires from the product people into some kind of instructions or prompts to generative AI that a generative AI can understand. I would not call it high-level programming. It's more like dancing around generative AI to make sure it generates what you need. And then possibly, if there is still skill and room for that, reviewing the generated code. But I believe that if you don't write the code yourself, you can't possibly review it in a good way. So I believe instead of reviewing it as such, the engineer will be responsible for testing it, which is an interesting turn of events where with the AI, it seems that coding is not that important, but what is more important is product thinking and being able to confirm that the generated solution, whether it's generated by person or AI, is the solution which business wants. So I kind of see somewhat a renaissance of testing profession, or at least testing related skills. And that's bleeds nicely towards like what would you do to stay competitive and relevant in the job market. And I think that people can follow possibly two avenues, and each of those is a gambling, so I don't know which one would be the best for you particularly, but those avenues are roughly is stick to your guns and continue doing development, because I still think there will be a demand for hardcore developers writing the code and doing it the old way. But alternatively, I believe there's going to be a rise for demand for vibe coders, which is essentially very similar to testing, classic testing, where you write a test cases and then you verify using test cases and some exploratory testing that the solution generated by AI is actually fitting the desired parameters. Depending on what resonates with you personally more, you can choose either one. And they both are gamble, because vibe coding is less complicated and less tricky. No matter what you say, it's less complicated and less tricky than writing a good software code. So if this is the case, then you can't expect a similar level of pay for vibe coders with the pay programmers get, simply because there will be a lower level of skill or knowledge required to start in the profession. So there will be more people trying to get there and getting there successfully. But the alternative is not the best either. Like with a drop in demand for programmers, the salary is likely not going to be super great either. So it's kind of probably not a downfall, but definitely drop in popularity and demand in software engineering as a not privileged, prestigious profession. If you are an older developer, I believe sticking to your guns probably makes more sense, because vibe coding, unless you have lots of testing experience and background, so vibe coding is a new skill, and the older you get, the more difficult for you it is to learn new skill. And when you compete with the younger, hungrier people who are more energetic, healthier, and have more free time, competing with them in the new market of a new skill is not a particularly smart strategy. The other side of the coin, if you a younger specialist who tries to start the way into software engineering, then I would say embracing vibe coding rather than going into depth of programming probably is a more winning strategy for you. I wonder what you think about that. Drop me a comment, hit the like button. I'm going to do this kind of lo-fi videos more, where I just talk, no script, what I have in my head. And yes, hopefully it was helpful, enjoyable. See you around.